r/AskReddit. Girls of Reddit. What is the most obvious sign you gave to a guy and he didn't get it? With my boyfriend. On our first date he didn't give me a kiss and left and I just said, "What? No kiss?" And he just awkwardly laughed and walked away. I thought I blew it or something. Second date he asked me to his apartment. I asked if I could take my pants off since they were uncomfortable and we laid on the bed watching a movie. I had my leg over his body and left leaning in close for a kiss. And he didn't kiss me. He finally kissed me when I was about to leave and was in the middle of talking when he did it. LMAO. Hahaha. My pants are too uncomfortable. That sounds like the start of a low rent porno. Once I invited someone to take a bath with me and like 3 weeks later they were like, "Wait, were you flirting with me? LOL. My now fiancé told me he liked me, and I told him I wanted to get to know him. We went on a date and at the end of the night we kissed and arranged a second date. I told him later that night that I liked him back. After a few days he messaged me, "But do you mean like as a friend or do we like each other the same way? I'm sorry but you have to spell it out for me. I don't want to get the wrong impression." I'm a guy. I'll give you one from middle school. 7th grade me. Talking to a bunch of kids on the last day of school, including a cute 8th grade girl who I had gym with. As I leave, she yells, "Hey, Jongan 832, I don't have your number." To which I reply, "Yay, I don't have yours either. Bye." I'm going to lie and say I instantly regretted it. Something similar happened to me too. A girl came up to me in 8th grade gym class and asked for my number, but although I quickly recognized her intentions, I felt obligated to reject her because my family was about to move away the following week from the exciting suburb to some dumbass hick redneck town an hour north, and at the time I didn't think LDRs were worth it. Well, this happened to me as a guy. She was on my bed and looked at me dead in the eye and said, "People tell me I give great blowjobs." And I looked at her straight faced and said, "Nice, good for you." She had the most disappointed face I've ever seen a woman have. Guy here. Sophomore year of college. Me and this girl had an economics class where every week we had to take those little 10-question quizzes. One day we're walking out together and she goes, "I found all the answers to the quizzes on Quizlet. I'd send them to you, but I don't have your number." And I said, "Oh, they're on Quizlet, huh?" And walked off towards my next class. Edit. We had been flirting a bit for a few weeks before this, and it was definitely a play for my number. I was just a goober and was entirely oblivious. I met my partner of 9 years when we were at a mutual friend's 20th birthday. I was into him, but he was completely clueless. I could tell he was attracted to me, but he was so awkward and adorably innocent. I would dance with just him, grab his hand to keep up with the group through the busy nightclub, place his hand on my waist or hips. Hours had passed and he wasn't getting it. Eventually I fully sat on his lap, despite empty seats either side of him. He froze, not sure what to do. The friend whose party it was caught his attention before demonstrating how to handle a woman in your lap. The birthday boy pulled his girlfriend to his lap, encircling her waist in his hands and whispering in her ear with pointed looks at my guy. Awkwardly my partner tried to do the same, but he was so uncertain. Later we all went for drunken late night macas before everyone split up for the night. He tried to drag me into a shadow to kiss me goodnight, but couldn't get his confidence up before his rowdy friends came and dragged us all apart. He was so adorably frustrated. A couple of days later I added him on Facebook because I wanted to know more about him. We started chatting all night every night and eventually got our shit together. It turned out he had never been kissed, so the next time we saw each other in person I made sure to rectify that. 9 years later we are no longer close with the mutual friends that got us together, but he's all I could ever need. Literally the best decision I ever made. Girl I worked with when I was 18 or 19. Ran her finger up and down the button-up shirt seam where the buttons are. Said, "I always wanted to ride in a Mustang. I owned a classic one, 1965. And I was like, oh cool, yeah that'd be fun. I can give you a lift home after work if you want." And then I did and she was all, "You want to come up and watch a movie?" And that's when I hit deep Clueless nerd and said I would. But I'm meeting some friends to play D&D. Yep, peak nerd. I'm not a girl, but many years ago a girl once told me she was a diagnosed nymphomaniac. That she absolutely needed to have sex when she was horny and that she was horny right then. As we hung out alone together in my band's practice space, which had a great big couch in it, I asked her questions about the psychology and then offered her a ride home. I figured it out days later when another girl told me how ducking oblivious I was. There were rumors in my store that I liked one guy and that he liked me back, but we were too stupid to admit it to each other. One day I was fed up with all of this and decided to take action. So in front of everyone I shouted at him from the opposite side of the department, "He name I'll like you, okay?" He turned and shouted back, "Thank you." We dated for 3 months. Then we broke up. I literally told him, "I think you're cute, we should date," and he didn't even blink. Fast forward 4 years and he texted me if I was serious back then. I said yes, then he felt like an idiot because he had a huge crush on me too. We're best friends now though. I'm a guy, but many moons ago I was leaving her apartment late one night. "Girl, you don't want to spend the night?" Me. "Why? I live like 2 blocks from here." I went home. She was pissed. Now married almost 8 years. I'm not a girl, but the idiot guy. I had just met the best friend of my best mate's girlfriend. She got more physical throughout the night to a point where she was constantly touching me, and while we were at a strip club, her idea, she suggested we leave as my best mate and his girlfriend had disappeared. We were both a bit drunk at this point and decided to get a cab home. When the cab pulled up at her place, she asked if I wanted to stay the night and she would drive me home in the morning. Me, being the polar opposite of Stephen Hawking, said nah, it's fine. My place is only a few minutes away. Once I got back to my place, the driver asked if I was gay and everything hit me at once. Ended up back at her place a few weeks later after my mate explained just how dumb I am. Not so much that he didn't get it, as that he was just very innocent and adorable. Back in middle school we were hanging out and I said, "If you were to kiss me right now, I wouldn't stop you." To which he opened his eyes wide and said, "What, really?" I nodded and he kissed me on the cheek and blushed. Nothing came of it. But years later he mentioned that he realized what I meant a few days after our hangout and was so embarrassed. He assumed he had missed his chance. I had the opposite once. I went on a date with a pretty young lady who, after dessert, leaned forward and asked me in a quiet tone if I would like to go back to her place and play her mandolin. Then she meant it. I got a free 30-minute mandolin lesson. I met a cute guy in college and we started texting a lot. Our school used to host 19+ themed club nights on campus every Thursday night, and one of those nights, the guy texted me and asked if I was planning on going. I hadn't planned on it, but was hoping the guy would invite me to go with him. So I said something like, "No, I always want to go, but none of my friends are 19 yet, so I have no one to go with." He said, "Oh, that's too bad. Have a good night." Eventually, he caught on to my flirting and we've been dating for 3.5 years now. He still insists that there was nothing wrong with his response. Guy here. She slept in my twin bed with me twice. The second night, she spent an hour leading up to bed talking about sex. I slept fully clothed right next to her, both times. Edit. And the best part, she talked about overhearing a couple having sex in the freshman dorms a year earlier. It was too dark to see in, so she and her friends crept up to the open window to listen. Curious, I coaxed her down the stairs and into my car and drove us over to the dorms. I parked and pointed at a first floor window. She laughed and asked if I'd heard them too. I told her that it was my room last year. I drove us back, tucked her in, and played Street Fighter 3, Third Strike for an hour before falling asleep next to her. A number of years ago, invite cute boy to stay overnight, encourage cute boy into twin size bed, take clothes off, crawl into bed naked, aggressive naked cuddle. I swear to God, at this point he actually still asked, "So, just making sure, I don't want to assume this is a signal that you would like to have sex now, right? Sweetheart, you get to gold consent awareness star for checking and also wow, yes, obviously, geez." Edit. To be clear, this is a cute funny story applicable to the question. It is not, in any way, intended to imply that he was wrong for asking. And yes, I did verify he was comfy with it before getting naked, of course. Told the guy I liked, now my boyfriend, that I was single and was looking for a boyfriend, and he just went, "Oh, have fun." That's always difficult. Then later in the conversation I ended up calling him hot and boyfriend material. Yeah, bad joke I know. And he was like, haha, thanks. 3 hours afterwards he texted me and was like, wait, were you flirting with me? Now we're dating and I like to tease him about his constant obliviousness. I'm a guy, but remember one girl tried to kiss me twice way back when I was younger. For some reason, I just couldn't figure out what she meant by that. Guy here. For my 21st I went out drinking till 5 AM with friends. I left a diner at 6 AM with a friend. We decided to walk back to his place to crash and met a woman along the way. She was walking alone and for some reason felt cool with walking with 2 guys. Turns out she lived 2 blocks away from my buddy. Got her to her door and she asked for my number and said we should hang out. I drunkenly decided I wanted to watch the sunrise. As soon as I got to my buddy's place she called and said her roommate was loud and she couldn't sleep. Asked me to come over and spend some time with her. I told her I was going to watch the sun come up and invited her out. She declined. I called her a week later. She told me I missed out on having a good night. Was at a friend's house and his sister came out wearing just a towel from the bathroom. She said to me, stop undressing me with your eyes. I replied, you are only wearing a towel? She did a cheeky wink and walked into her room. I thought to myself, stupid girl thinks she is wearing clothes, haha, and went about my day. Early on with my husband. At the time just random internet person I had become friends with. He was taking about his motorcycle. Very obviously coming on to him. I go, yeah, so when are you going to take me for a ride on that thing? I was being like over the top lascivious about it too. And in complete seriousness he replied that he doesn't take on passengers because he can't handle the added responsibility and he actually removed his passenger pegs. I like to tease him about it to this day, though I've added in an emo hair flip to go with a line about the passenger pegs. I love him, but man, he can be dense. The first time we hooked up we were making out on his couch. A bit later, he gets up to go to bed and sets me up to sleep on the couch, which is fine. He wasn't being pushy or presumptuous. I admired that. Not I also wanted to get laid, so I go, or maybe I could sleep with you. I swear I smelled the gears in his head burning as they ground to a halt and changed direction. I said, you look hot. Are you single? He just said thanks. I am single, then walked away. Edit. To everyone saying he wasn't interested. I got his snap the next day of the event. I think he has high functioning autism. His IG photo has the symbols on it. Shared a bed cause hers was too messy. I was so nisegulite that I didn't want to be a creep and make moves on her. We got married, eventually. I am a guy, but I did have something like this happen to me. I was on a long bus trip with my school and the whole time down to Florida a girl from the front of the bus kept looking back at me. When we got to this vacation place we were going to, her friend found me the next day and told me that this girl wanted me to put suntan lotion on her back. So I was like okay and went over there and kind of glopped some on and rubbed it in a little bit and said, is that okay? And she said yeah, and I said okay and walked away. I grabbed his arm as we walked out during the fire drill, pretending to be scared, and told him I loved holding him and it made me so much more comfortable. He said he was glad and we never talked after. A girl who had just broken with her boyfriend, who was also a friend, told me the following within 2 days of each other and my dense mind didn't notice. The first thing she said was, oh, my friends think I should have dated you, not him, and I replied, that's hilarious. 2 days later she goes, my mom thinks we would have make a better pair than my ex and I. My amazing brain decides to say, oh, that's so nice of her, and also BTW, can you set me up with your friend X? Feel like an idiot now. Sat on his lap. He got up and found me a chair. Thanks, Andrew. Not a girl, but I had a girl literally put her hand in my pants from the front, and I apologized for having my crotch there. This was years ago. Still great friends with her. We laughed about it like 2 weeks ago. Mayo. I used to op it. We went on 2 dates that I clarified were romantic and he still didn't get it. Girl in high school. I like guys in tight shirts and blue jeans. Me. Wearing a tight shirt and blue jeans. Damn. Lucky dudes. A girl once changed next to me on the bus before a band event. I averted my eyes like a gentleman and figured lots of people were changing, so it wasn't a big deal. A year later the same girl offered to take me to a secluded part of our high school after hours and blow me. I thought she was joking and laughed it off. Another time I got to school early and she asked me to drive her to McDonald's for an Egg McMuffin. While we were driving she said we could just skip school, go back to my place, no parents home, and duck. I thought she was joking and laughed it off. Senior year after an awards banquet she told me she wanted to take me back to her place and make out and see where the night went. I think you know my reaction. It turns out there were a lot of girls interested in me and lots of situations like this where I missed obvious hints. In my defense I was a recovering fat kid who was mercilessly teased in middle school then got hot without realizing it. And I couldn't conceive of a world where these girls were serious and not making fun of me. Still, oh boy was I dense. One time, I was really tired and under a lot of stress. This girl I liked asked me if I wanted to hang out at her place and emphasized her roommate was gone. I was like whatever, went right over my head. Didn't realize it until I got back home. I was stranded in a hotel because my flight was cancelled for weather. I booty called the guy I figured was most likely to show up and conveniently live nearby. First, and only, booty call of my life so maybe I did it wrong. But he was not catching on. He showed up. I had a bucket of beers waiting, and we laughed and talked on the balcony for a while. I finally got my courage up and went inside, pushed the desk chair aside and sat on the desk. He followed and sat in a chair across the room. I asked him to close the drapes. He walked past me and closed the drapes and went back to the chair. I suggested he take his shoes off. He did. In the chair. I suggested he move closer. He brought the chair, maybe a bit closer than that. Total confusion on his face. OMG, will you please come here? He finally got it. But damn, it seemed like a lot of work for a guy with a reputation for being a ladies' man. I kind of figured come to my hotel room would have been sufficient. Married to him for 12 years now. Asked him to adjust my bra strap. He did very shakily and then patted it down like all done. Right when my wife and I started talking, she invited me over to her house after telling me nobody was home. We were watching TV and she commented about how big and spacious the couch was and there's enough room for 2 people, and I switched her for the small chair I was sitting in and I sat on the couch by myself. I eventually figured it out though. I'm a guy, but every time a girl gives me a sign I see right through it and just think they're being nice to me. Ladies, the lesson to be learned here is if you wanna date a man, literally say to him, I like you. I want to date you. Let's go on a date now. Because duck, we can be dense. Guy here. After a breakup one time my female friend invited me over to stay the night with her. I got all excited and was like hell yeah. Got over there and shared the same bed after she snuck me through the house and into her room. She leaned over and said, I hope this isn't confusing. I don't sleep with my friends. So like my mother taught me, I minded my own. She got really close and brushed up against me multiple times. My wife, different lady, best woman ever BTW, told me years later that she was coming into me and wanted to see if I wanted to take a risk and go after her, essentially forcing the first move, which to a guy is confusing as duck. I don't sleep with friends, but then rubs up against me and has me sleep in a single bed right up against her. To this day I find it confusing as all hell. I, 18M, was on a party holiday in the Greek islands and was invited into a shower in their hotel room by 2 hot girls I knew tangentially from back home, 18F blonde, 18F brunette, who were both wearing bikinis and being giggly. We all got into the shower, hot water and bubbles. I did not make a move, and shortly after they turned off the shower and we all dispersed. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.